So SAAC is a Student Athlete Advisory Committee, and there's basically 3 different platforms for SAAC. There's the institutional SAAC, which is the Catholic SAAC. Then there's the conference SAAC, which is the landmark SAAC, which is comprised of all the presidents from all the SAAC institutional SAACs within our conference. And then from the conference SAAC, there's one representative that goes on to national SAAC to represent the conference level. And the purpose of SAAC is basically for the student athletes to have a voice within what happens in the athletic administration. So my sophomore year, Dr. Allen emailed me and asked me to come to his office. And I had no idea what he wanted, but I walked in and he proposed that he could nominate me to be a national SAAC officer. And I really had no idea what I was getting into, but it sounded like a great opportunity, so I said go for it. So as a national SAAC officer, I'm basically the connection between Catholic SAAC, the landmark SAAC, and then the national SAAC. There's 22 representatives from across the nation that represent D3 student athletes. So we get together 4 times a year in-person meetings, and we usually have 2 to 3 conference calls a year, and we just discuss the current legislation and current problems within athletics or anything that we think could enhance the student athlete experience. One of our 4 meetings throughout the year is to go to NCAA convention, which is what our other 3 meetings build up to. So at our other 3 meetings, we're given the proposed legislation and we discuss it, and we have to take a stance on that we take a stance the Wednesday before convention starts. And then once we get to convention, our position is to go to our conferences that we represent and present national SAAC's position on each piece of legislation. As Landmark Conference Ambassador, I talk to every SAAC president within the Landmark Conference, and they are in charge of talking to their SAACs at their institutional level and asking them about their legislation and taking straw poll votes that are then submitted to me so that I can, even if I don't personally agree with the vote that our student athletes as a majority take, I still represent our student athletes. So whenever we get to the national SAAC part, I vote based on what our conference feels, not based on what I feel. The whole week was just an amazing experience. I got to meet so many awesome people. There's only 60 student athletes, I think, from Division III, Division II, and Division I. And there was about 2,000 to 3,000 administrators there, from faculty athletic representatives to SIDs to athletic directors to even presidents of schools across the country. I always love the Special Olympics event. So this year we did bocce ball, and it's an awesome feeling to know that you're brightening that child's day. And they honestly brighten my day more than I brighten theirs, I think. Besides that, one of the best experiences I had was in the Issues Forum on Friday morning. We were just discussing possible topics to be brought up at future conventions. And one of them was the commitment letter in D3. And my table had talked about it, and they asked me how I felt as a student athlete. And I said it'd be awesome to have that celebratory factor, but the punishment factor of it goes against the D3 philosophy. So then a couple people stood up and gave their opinion, and then people at my table urged me to stand up and give my opinion of a student athlete. And there was 1,200 people in the room, and I was so nervous to go up to that mic and tell them how I felt. I don't even remember what I said because I completely blacked out the whole experience, but it was awesome. And afterwards they took a straw poll vote to see if it swayed the opinions, and they ended up completely favoring the opinion that I gave, and it was so cool to see how important the voice of a student athlete is. I think the most important thing is probably a pretty general thing, but don't be afraid to go up and introduce yourself to people. You never know who's sitting next to you in the airport or who's going to be next to you in line at a restaurant. Like, there's so many amazing people, and I heard so many amazing stories, and these people are in your everyday life, but you'll never get to meet them unless you take that opportunity.